Hello and welcome to JamsHams Judgement, my weekly review podcast where I review anything and everything. Today we will be reviewing It Chapter 2. Basically in this podcast I review a thing and then I try and keep it as interactive as possible. This is the general gist of it if you have not been here before. If at any point you have any questions or theories or comments, anything you want to say, speak up in chat and I'll try and keep you as included as possible. So yeah. It Chapter 2. Recent film, still in cinemas. As always, I've got a little plan of attack here. So I'll go through the premise of the movie. Well, the two movies. I'm going to briefly touch on It 1 as well, just so you can have some context. The premise, the main characters, very brief summary of It 1, and hopefully brief, although looking back at my notes maybe it's not that brief, a hopefully brief summary of It Chapter 2 as well. Then, like I said, a fairly big section on the problems I had with the film, and then a little cherry on top, like a little compliment sandwich about things I liked more like didn't mind. Okay, so the premise of It, so the whole universe, the It universe, I'll say. So it's all set in a town called Derry, and Derry has an evil clown from outer space living in the town, and he terrorizes people, he eats people, mostly children I think, but he does eat grown-ups as well. And basically the evil clown appears every 27 years. That is the whole premise of the It universe. So yeah, in Derry, there are a list of main characters I'm going to go through. So, It Chapter 1 is set in the 80s. It Chapter 2, like I said, because he appears every 27 years, is set 27 years after It 1, and is set in 2017, I believe, just basically modern day. So yeah, when I go through the main characters, both films have the same main characters, obviously different actors. So I'll go through and give a very brief summary of their main attributes, things you need to know. So the main characters, the people that the movie follows are called the Losers Club. So basically a group of kids, later adults, who have to deal with this evil clown. So first member of the Losers Club is Beverly. Now Beverly is the only female member of the Losers Club, and she does not have a good time in all of her life, whether it be child Beverly or adult Beverly. So as a child, Beverly lives in a shithole, gets abused by her father, physically, mentally. It's not too clear to what degree. I will say this is more the first one than the second one, but in the first one I found the bits with the creepy people and the disturbing shit that they do, like the bullies and stuff, I found that way more creepy than the clown stuff. That's the first one though. If I was reviewing the first It, then maybe I could give it a big endorsement, but we're doing the second one. Right, so Beverly, abused by her father, and bullied at school, not having a good time. But James, you may ask, maybe things get better for her in the future. Well, she gets rich, like most of the main characters. However, she's also married to an abusive husband who is very similar to her father. So very abusive. You see her getting hit and the belt comes out, and it's all very... You only see this for a little bit at the beginning of the film, but yeah, still not good for old Bev. So yeah, the other thing about Beverly is she is the middle of a love triangle. So it's her and then two of the other Losers Clubs. Club members who are pining for her attention, even after 27 years, for some reason. Okay, so second character we've got is Bill. He's the sort of leader of the Losers Club, and we first see him when his little brother Georgie, I'm sure even if you haven't seen the films, you've probably seen Georgie, the little kid in the yellow raincoat and the little paper boat. That's Georgie, the first child we see, Pennywise the Clown. I've just realised I haven't put Pennywise the Clown in the list of main characters. I guess I'll get back to him. That was a bit of an oversight. Completely forgot that he was actually a character. Oh boy. So yeah, we see Georgie get murdered by the clown. So Bill is Georgie's brother, and Bill feels somewhat responsible for Georgie's death because he was outside in the rain alone, and Bill didn't want to play, and blah 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 blah. So that's basically Bill's whole deal. Leader of the gang, guilty about Georgie. Feels guilty, not actually guilty. And he is one of the members of this weird love triangle. So he has a sort of a connection with Bev, sort of the more by the books romance story. Even this all applies when he's a child and an adult, by the way. It's pretty much people's characters don't change in the 27 years. So next character we have is Richie. Richie is the resident funny guy. Although, see, in all the reviews I've read, people are praising Richie as like the best character in this because of how funny he is, but he made me laugh like twice in the whole film. And believe me, he didn't just make 2 jokes. He made a lot of jokes at very inappropriate times at some stages. So he's meant to be the funny guy, although I personally did not find him very funny at all. Yeah. But I guess, I don't know. There's he grows up to be a stand-up comedian, but then it's also revealed he doesn't write his own content. So I don't know whether he was written to be not funny for some reason, or whether the jokes just didn't land very well. I'm not sure. But hey. Right. Next character we have is Mike. So Mike is the only one of the group after It Chapter 1 not to leave the town of Derry. So he has spent the last 27 years as the librarian researching the monster and ways to beat the monster and kind of waiting for it to come back, because they're not sure if it will come back or not. So he's the only one that stayed, and he's been researching and researching, just preparing basically for 27 years. And that's pretty much his whole deal now, and he's gone a bit insane because he's just been obsessing over this clown monster for 27 years. And obviously questioning his own sanity, because no one else seems to know about a clown monster, only him. Then we got Ben. So Ben in child form was the little fat boy. That was basically his whole shtick. Then he grew up and got hot. Did some push-ups and stuff, got hot, got buff, got handsome. And yeah, that's pretty much his whole character. It's very deep, very deep. So Ben is the third member of this love triangle. He almost wooed Beverly with a very cheesy poem and a note. But didn't work out when they were younger because Beverly didn't actually know it was from him. She assumed the note was from Bill all this time. Oh no. There's a dumb plot point concerning that note, which I'll go into later. So next character is Eddie. So Eddie is Eddie, I would say, is arguably more funny than the resident funny guy, Richie. He made me laugh more than the guy, the comic relief did. So yeah. So Eddie's character, basically, he's a bit of a scaredy cat, a big hypochondriac, scared of everything. More so when he was a child, he was like scared of infections and a germaphobe, all of that. And afraid he'll catch anything and everything. Didn't want to go into the sewers. Like, I mean, rightly so, really. But that's basically his whole character. Bit of a scaredy cat. Last member of the Losers Club is Stanley. I'd be lying to you if I said I remember Stanley at all. From the first one. Don't remember him, but I'm assuming that he was the most scared member of the crew because that comes into play later. So he's not really in the next chapter because he kills himself. I'll go through that in the summary, but yeah. He kills himself, so doesn't ever get back to Derry. But yeah, I can't really remember Stanley at all. Not that memorable, to be honest. Then we got Pennywise, obviously the Pennywise the Dancing Clown, the main monster, the main villain of the movie. They omitted the orgy. Thankfully, they omitted the orgy from both films. No orgy. For those of you who don't know, there was a weird orgy scene in the book. It would have been in chapter 1 if it was in there at all. It was after they initially defeated the clown on the way back out of the sewers. Basically, each member of the club had to have sex with Beverly in order to, I think, like, lose their innocence or grow up or something. But they were meant to be like 12 or even younger, maybe 11. It was like, I don't know. Stephen King's gotten a lot of flack over the years for that particular scene, and rightly so. It was not in the film. Yeah. So that's a no, Dragon. that's a big no on the orgy scene. Oh dear me. Yes, definitely some flack. Right, yeah, so Pennywise, big alien clown, shapeshifter, spooky boy. Sure you've seen him around. Big clown, funky eyes that point in different directions. Obsession with balloons. Yeah, you know who Pennywise is. And then the next, I guess, biggest character, I'd say, is Henry Bowers, who's the bully in both films. Well, bully, more so bully in the second one, just straight up psychopath in the towards the end of the first one and the second one. So yeah, in the first one, in the first It, I actually found Henry Bowers more scary than the clown because of the shit he did. He was like an actual psychopath, like carving his name into Ben's stomach and like straight up like trying to murder them, and yeah. And the second one's not much different. So at the end of the first It, he murdered his own dad because the clown got into his head. And then he goes to an insane asylum. And then in the second one, he escapes the insane asylum. But I'll get into that. So, give a little brief summary of what happened in It Chapter 1. So, Georgie gets killed. The gang gets terrorized by the clown, who usually manifests into some sort of representation of like their biggest fears. So the hypochondriac kid, Eddie, sees a leper because that's like the worst thing he could possibly encounter, because, you know, it's illness incarnate, basically. So they each see their biggest fears, blah blah blah. Spooks ensue. They finally confront it in his underground lair that they find, and they beat the clown to death with some sticks. That is basically the main story of It 1. Well, I should say they beat it to death. But yeah, they all surround the clown, go bash bish bash bosh, smack it with like baseball bats and metal rods and stuff, until it starts to fade away and falls down a big well. You assume dead, but spoiler, Pennywise isn't dead. Which brings us to It, a Chapter 2. Yeah, basically it does get snapped. He starts like fading, he starts like flaking away. He got Thanos'd. You didn't actually see him fully fade away before he fell down the well. So, It Chapter 2, 27 years later. Like I said, Mike remained in Derry, and he finds out that Pennywise the Clown has returned. People are being murdered, children are being taken, and there was a message on the wall of the bridge when a particularly gruesome homophobic assault happened, written in blood, that says, "Come home." Now, this is particularly poignant because at the end of the first film, the Losers Club made a pact that if Pennywise the Clown ever returned, that they'd all rally back to Derry and kill him again. And then Pennywise is obviously like, well, bring it on, bitches, I'm back and better than ever. So Mike makes some phone calls to each member of the Losers Club. The gang's all here. Haha, no they're not. No they're not. So he makes phone calls to all the members of the Losers Club, who have all forgotten about the clown until Mike phones, because there is some sort of spell, magic-y, alien, demon-y thing going on where as soon as you leave Derry, you start to forget all of the things that happened in Derry. So the rest of the main characters, they wouldn't even remember they were from Derry until Mike phones and it all starts to come flooding back. Okay. So they all reunite in Derry for a nice meal in a Chinese restaurant. Except, of course, Stanley, who, as I mentioned before, kills himself because he is too much of a pansy to face the clown again. So, yeah. That's basically Stanley's whole character. He's being a big old wussy boy who didn't want to fight a clown again, even though they literally killed it as children with sticks last time. Why he got so scared, I don't know. He's clearly... Where did Stanley live after the call? He didn't. He died because he killed himself. What do you mean? I don't know if you're like talking locations. I had no idea where he lived. I barely even remembered he was a character. Where was he living? Just away from the town, I think. Just like everyone else. Mike was the only one that stayed in the town, so he forgot everything. Mike phones up, all came flooding back, and he's like, "Oh shit, the scary clown," and killed himself. But I have another gripe with that, which I'll get into later. So yeah, everyone reunites in Derry. They all start to remember. It all comes back slowly. It's Bill that had the stutter. And yes, he does. The stutter oddly comes back when he starts remembering the clown. And maybe it was the clown that was causing the stutter all along. Makes you think, huh? It doesn't. It's just a thing that happened. So yeah, like I said, Mike has been planning on how to destroy it for 27 years. And he starts to share all his information that he's gleaned to the group. Found out that it has been here for thousands of years. I think in the book, I'm not sure if they changed it for the movie, but I think he's been canonically on Earth for like millions of years. But basically, he crash landed to Earth in a comet. Which one was Mike? The black guy. The one whose parents died in the fire. Yeah. And then Bill is the brother of the little kid Georgie who got killed. Yeah. Yeah, but basically, he found out that it's an alien who crash landed from a comet and is powered by these things called the Deadlights, which are 3 spooky orbs that, I don't know, steal souls or some shit. I don't know. There's probably a lot more lore that you could find out about these, but it's not really in the movie. Basically, spooky balls of light which seem to power Pennywise. So he found out all this because he spoke to a group of Native Americans just outside the town of Derry, who have tried to fight Pennywise before, and he discovers the ritual of Chud. I think I'm saying that right. It's got a little accent on it, but I think it's Ritual of Chud, which supposedly either traps or kills the Deadlights powering the monster. So he's like, guys, this is like, I've spent 27 years, this is how you kill it, but you've got to help me. Now, eventually, and I say eventually because my god, this film dragged on. This film is 2 hours 50 minutes long, and my god, did I feel every goddamn minute of it. Eventually, he convinces everyone to try and beat it once and for all. Basically, every character had at least a 10-minute, I'm leaving scene, and then they're like, I'm not leaving, the gang's all back together, and like that happened for every character. Got very annoying. But yeah. So they finally agree to, you know, for everyone to try and beat the monster once and for all. Dragon, don't worry about it, I'm sorting something out at the moment. So, the first thing to do to beat Pennywise is everyone has to get a token, okay? All sound effects and things are obviously disabled for this because, like that, I don't want people to ruin this for me, please, thanks. So they have to get a token from their past to fully remember what happened to them, because apparently, even though it's all coming flooding back, there's still some stuff they need to unlock in their brain in order to fully remember and in order to fully beat Pennywise. This section was so boring to me. So the same thing happened about 5 times for each character, however many characters there were, I don't even know. But the same thing happened over and over again, and the format was this. The character goes to a place from their past. The character remembers getting scared by Pennywise in that place in the past. Then they get the token. And then the same scary thing happens to them in the present. That happened for all the characters over again in the exact same format with the exact same predictable jump scare over and over again. It was very boring. Why we had to see it, I don't know. It was very boring. It was very samey. Ugh. Right, okay. So they all get their tokens, they all remember all the things, and they group up again. But at some point, Henry Bowers, the bully, has been broken out of the insane asylum by Pennywise, and is still insane and still is trying to murder the Losers Club. So he has a run-in with Eddie, stabs him in the cheek. Eddie rips the knife out of his cheek, stabs Henry in the chest, but he survives. Both survive. And eventually they kill Henry in the library with a tomahawk in the head. Now, the problem with this is they just get away with this. They straight up kill a guy, and then it's never mentioned again. They kill a guy in the middle of the library with a tomahawk, and it's never mentioned again. Apparently, yeah. I mean, maybe in this universe, murder is legal. That would explain it. But yeah, we never hear anything of that again. So I don't know what happened there. But yeah, that's just a little side plot with the old bully, which just ends very abruptly with a tomahawk to the back of the head. So then, all of the members of the club go to its lair again underground, but this time they go even more underground because there's a trapdoor in the underground lair. Whoa, more underground? That's spooky. It's not, it's just the same place. It looks exactly the same. So yeah, they start performing the ritual of Chud. They all join hands, they burn their tokens, and start chanting, and out come the deadlights from the ceiling. They start going into the magic box thing that they've got, and they're like, we're doing it, beating it, quick, get the lid on the box. But obviously it doesn't work. It comes out as a giant like spider thing, starts to beat the shit out of all of them. And basically it reveals to the group that Mike had hidden the fact that when the Native Americans tried to do the ritual of Chud, it didn't work and it murdered them all. So Mike hid the full story from everyone. He sort of knew this whole thing wouldn't work at all. But basically he thought, because he's gone a bit insane after obsessing about a clown for 27 years, that if everyone was together and they believed hard enough, that the ritual would somehow magically work and the clown would be defeated. That is not what happened. But yeah. So they have a bit of a run around the underground pit with Pennywise. Some more spooks occur. I didn't get scared once in this film, and I did get spooked a couple of times in the first one. But this one, I don't know what happened. First one was so good. This one, I would never want to watch it again. It's so boring. Yeah, they give him the run around, some more spooks, some more mind games, like Beverly is trapped in some sort of toilet cubicle that's filling with blood, and then what's his name? Ben's getting like buried alive, but they sort of get out together or something. There's a bit of that. A few little mind games with everyone. No, the movie was not entertaining. Oh, not entertaining. No, it was not entertaining at all, in my opinion. I was bored. Especially by this point. So it kills Eddie, stabs him right through his dumb little stomach. And then, but you're asking, well, if the ritual didn't work, how do they kill Pennywise? They bully it to death. They bully him to death. They, once again, surround it just like the first one. No sticks this time. They bully it to death with words. They call it a clown over and over again, which I don't understand why Pennywise would take that as an insult. He is a clown. That's just a fact. They're like, huh, clown, you dumb clown, you stupid clown, huh, you nerd clown, you dumb clown, like over and over again. But yeah, Pennywise is a clown. Why would he take that as an insult? It's like, yeah, I am a clown. I've been a clown this whole time. What are you on about? Yeah, they call him a lot of mean names and stuff. They definitely could have gone meaner with the names. And basically, as they bully it. They make him feel very, very small, and yeah, it's obviously a metaphor for what. Yeah, it's obviously a metaphor, but yeah, he gets very small, and basically when he's the size of a baby, he's like starts to deflate and deform. Then they grab his heart out of his chest and crush it together. And then he basically Thanos snaps away. And then Pennywise is dead. They all escape the pit. They all clean off in the waterlogged quarry from years back. And that's it. Pennywise is dead because they bully him and then rip his heart out. Yeah. There are a few reveals after this. Okay. So it's revealed that Stanley's suicide. Now, I've been informed that this is different from the book. It was revealed that Stanley's suicide was some sort of plan that Stanley apparently had, and he wrote a big suicide note. A big suicide note that said, "Hey guys, if you're reading this, I'm dead." Which I don't like those in general. It's like, oh, by the time you're reading this, I'm probably dead. But it's like, yeah. Hi guys, I've sent this out to all of you. If you read this, I'll be dead. Basically, I knew I wouldn't be strong enough to fight the thing, so I killed myself in order to bring you all together and make sure you can beat it. Which was just really dumb. I don't know exactly what it said, but it was dumb. So that was one reveal after the Pennywise death. He's dead. They ripped his heart out and crushed it. The deadlights faded away. And so did he. And all of his lair crumbled and collapsed in on itself. He is dead. But, like, he's dead, by all means. Unless this makes a lot of money and they want to make a sequel, basically. Then they could... A prequel is on the table, I suppose. Oh yeah, but it was a big MacGuffin. Yeah. Yeah, there's prequel territory, obviously, because like I said, he's been around for possibly millions of years. You could have him like spooking some dinosaurs or something. I don't know. Depends how much money this makes, I guess. But the reviews aren't good, so maybe they won't make a sequel. I mean, I hope they don't, because this one was like not even half as good as the first one. The other thing that was revealed, which also differed from the book, is that Richie was for some reason gay all along and was in love with Eddie for some reason. This it was just there to tick some boxes, I think. Yeah, it was a bit weird. Like, there was no reason that Richie was still in love with Eddie, especially like this is a problem I had with this film. Basically, the characters literally hadn't changed since they were like 11. They still think exactly the same way, which is very dumb. In 27 years, they haven't changed. And for some reason, they still have the same love interests, even though they didn't even remember each other. So apparently Richie had loved Eddie all this time. I don't know why it was in there. It was such a quick reveal right at the end. That he was for some reason in love with Eddie, but they hadn't even spoken to each other in 27 years. So why and how? They didn't even remember each other. It's like, why? Okay, I mentioned the love triangle between Beverly, Ben, and Bill. So, adult Beverly kissed adult Bill, and there was some sparks flying, and they're like, oh, you haven't changed a bit, you're still like, oh, you're great, I like you. And they kissed. So it was all pointing towards that Bill and Bev were maybe going to get together by the end, but it wasn't. Bev gets together with Ben at the end, for the sole reason that 27 years ago, Ben wrote Beverly the poem. And for that reason, she kisses him and then decides to be with him. Now, I don't know about you, but if I realised that someone I knew and had not spoken to or even thought about for 27 years wrote me a poem, I wouldn't give a shit. But in this film, that's apparently cause for instant love. The people in this film don't think like normal people think. They think like children. And I think that makes the film very irritating and annoying to watch. Yeah. That being said, I'm gonna get onto stuff I didn't like about the film. Basically, my only section. Okay, so first of all, way too long. Way too long. Almost 3 hours long. And we had to sit through the same thing over and over again. Now, this was from the very start. So, as soon as Mike was phoning up the people, we had to sit through Mike phoning up every single main character to tell them that the clown was back. And it was just the same thing over and over again. He picks up the phone, says, "Hey, it's Mike." The people on the other end go, Mike who? And then he's like, Mike blah blah from Derry, and they're like, oh. And then he's like, "You've got to come home," and they're like, oh. And they all get very shocked. That happened about 5 times for each character, the same thing, over and over and over again. Then you had the tokens, where the same thing happened over and over and over again, and everything was very, very predictable and boring. You could have just had one phone call, and then, like, the characters going like, "Oh, why did you call all of us?" You could have had a fucking conference call and done it all in once. I don't care. Don't spend like half an hour just calling every single main character for the same thing to happen over and over again. It was horribly boring right from the start. Yeah, just do it in a fucking Discord call. Send them a group chat on Facebook. I don't care. Oh, don't make me sit through you calling every single person. I was so bored. So yeah, that brings me on to my second point. It was very predictable. You could predict every jump scare a mile off. Some kind of because it was the same as the first one. For a lot of it, the same sort of formula about what Pennywise can do and how he does things. All of the token things, like I said, it followed the exact same format, so you knew exactly what was going to happen and when. There was a lot of oh, what's going to be behind the curtain? Oh, it's a monster. Of course it's a monster. Why? Do something different to subvert expectations or something. I don't know. But yeah, very, very predictable. Not scary in the slightest for me. I think you'd only ever be scared of this film if you were just scared of clowns. Which is unlike the first one. Because the first one was really good, which is probably adds to my disappointment of the second one, because I'm like, oh, why can't you just, your first one was really good. What happened? Okay. Third point I've already touched on. The adults don't act like adults. The people who got together because of a note written 27 years ago, and how Richie is still inexplicably in love with Eddie, even though they haven't seen or remembered each other for 27 years. It just does not make any sense how they think. Also, the way they act about Pennywise, they never once think to get any weapons or anything, any help, nothing. They literally go down to fight the alien clown with one rusty bar, I think. They were even more prepared when they were children. They even had one of those guns where you kill livestock with. They had one of those, and they had slingshots and whatever. But this time they didn't have any weapons at all, and they're adults. But they don't they don't think like adults or do what any sane adult would do in a situation. It was just all the things they did. It was just weird. But I guess you could say, I don't know whether this was intended, that because it all came flooding back and because they were remembered, that it sort of made them regress into a more childlike state or something. I don't know. I'm trying to write excuses for the film which weren't actually in the film. So I don't know. It could be something like that or something. Not sure. Next thing I didn't like was, I think it was ruined by the jokes. I mentioned before that I did not find the comic relief that funny at all. Maybe laughed at about 2 of their jokes. The placement of the jokes I also felt was really bad. Basically, this contributed it to the fact it wasn't very scary as well. Because pretty much every single scare had a joke forced into it somehow. So in the middle of every jump scare or tense scene, Richie would fucking crack a joke that wasn't funny, and the camera would focus on him making the joke, and it was just, they were clearly going for laughs, but it wasn't funny. And it's like, did you forget you were trying to be a horror film? I don't know. And even the bit with the clowns, it's just funny. It's just funny to me, the way they did it. Can't help but laugh at the clown doing a little jig or licking a window. It's not scary. It wasn't scary. The first one was scary. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know what they did differently. Yeah, it just did not live up to the first film at all, and that's pretty much what everyone is saying. I mean, technically, in a technical sense, it was a good film. It was well made, I suppose. All the scenes, the set pieces, the effects, all of that, good. So in a technical, from a technical standpoint, yeah, I guess you can say it's a good film, which stops it from being the worst film ever. But it's far from being a good film, in my opinion. I also had this thought that maybe it was a lot different because they were all adults. So I don't know, maybe it's something to do with the main cast being children in the first one. You sort of feel for them a bit more, or you can put yourselves in their shoes a bit more, because you can remember being scared about things as a kid, and I'm not sure it's precisely how it makes the difference, but I think maybe it was because they were adults, and that plays in with maybe the actors as well. That's another thing. I didn't think the group dynamic was very good. Definitely not as believable that they were all friends. Not as believable as the first film. So maybe the child actors meshed more than the adult actors. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. And the other thing I think it may have suffered from, that it was just more of the same stuff. There weren't really many new tricks from Pennywise. It was all just, the same old stuff. Him appearing out of a dark corner, him transforming into some spider monster, him transforming into a leper and coming at you and spewing sludge on you. Beverly with the blood again happened in the first one as well. There was a lot of sort of repeated, not word for word or scene for scene or whatever, but it was just very similar, and it wasn't very surprising. There was nothing new. Even with the story, it was just the same thing over and over again. Same thing as the first one. They relive some fears, like they do in the first one. They go to its lair, like in the first one, and they surround it and beat it up, like the first one. It was basically the same film, but worse. So, I mean, I'd recommend you just watch the first one, because the first film, and I wasn't doing JamsHams Judgement when the first one came out, but I would have given it a hell of a review, because it was a very good film. I still think it's a very good film. And I haven't rewatched it since, but I've been seeing clips of it, obviously with all the hype surrounding the second one, and it just still stands up. I was like, oh shit, yeah, I remember that bit. That like was actually scary. And then I see a clip of the second one, and it's like, that's just laughable. It's not the same, but I just can't quite put my finger on why it wasn't as good. And it should have been as good, but it just wasn't. Just wasn't, in my opinion. Yeah, I think the main thing for me is that it was just boring. Almost 3 hours of not a lot happening, or not a lot of interesting stuff happening, at least. I've got a very small things I like section, which I've pretty much already covered. It looked fine. Good cast, like if you on paper good cast, but like I said, maybe they just didn't mesh. Individually, all the acting was good. They played their own parts very well, but maybe they just didn't mesh very well. Also, what I will say is, obviously it is based on a book. I haven't read the book because the book is like over 1,000 pages long, and I'm not doing that. I don't want to. Apparently it's like not great either. But I will say that maybe the book's story just isn't that good. Maybe it's just restricted by the source material. Because I know I mentioned they changed a few things, but I don't think they changed a lot of stuff. Like the main story is pretty much the same. But yeah, maybe they're just restricted by what they had to work with. Maybe it's just not a fantastic book. It's a very weird book as well. Obviously, as well as the weird orgy scene, there's also a bit where they defeat Pennywise by going into some sort of mental landscape and like have a mental battle with Pennywise. There was none of that. They also meet a giant cosmic space turtle in the book. Obviously, that wasn't in the film. So, like I said, they did, veer away from the book a bit, but I don't know, maybe we needed a giant space turtle. Maybe, at least if we had a giant space turtle or a mind battle with Pennywise, that would have been different from the first one, and it would have given us something new and something a bit more exciting than just the same thing over again. So yeah, maybe there's an alternate It Chapter 2 cut where they included the giant space turtle and it just made it a better film. Who knows? I guess we'll never know. Maybe there is a sequel. It Chapter 3 Space Turtle or something. I don't know. Maybe that'll be good. Who knows? So, the JamsHams Judgement. I'm just gonna have to give it a 5 out of 10. It wasn't like awful. I didn't walk out of the cinema. I sat there and watched it all. I was bored, but I didn't fall asleep. So, 5 out of 10 hams for It Chapter 2. For context, I'm going to try and retrospectively rate Chapter 1. So, for It Chapter 1, I suppose I'd give it an 8 out of 10. It was a very solid film, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, to go from an 8 to a 5 is a hefty downgrade, I feel. But yeah, if you're looking to watch a good film about a killer clown, or a spooky spook fest about a clown, watch It Chapter 1. Definitely don't go to the cinema and see it Chapter 2. I wouldn't recommend. I would wait until it's on streaming, so you could like skip through it a bit, because it is very long. And I didn't enjoy it. But obviously that's my opinion. All of this is my opinion. If you want to go see it and if you've been excited about it, which I was, maybe I got a bit too excited about it. Maybe that was my bad for getting a bit too excited about it and that it let me down. But I guess at the end of the day, you need to form your own opinions on it. But hey, this has been mine. And it left me sad because I really wanted it to be good. But yeah, that has been my judgment of It Chapter 2. So if there are any further questions or comments or anything, now's the time before I end the podcast. So any last things from you guys, or are we good to go? I was really hoping this would have been a good review, but sadly I didn't have much to say good-wise. I did try. I tried my best to think of things about it, but you know, things you never knew you wanted. It Chapter 3 Space Turtles. Please, by all means, make that. Maybe it's better. It would certainly make for a more interesting review than this. I should have just reviewed It Chapter 1 instead, and then I could have, at the end, I could have just added, oh, and by the way, It Chapter 2 sucks, don't watch it. Maybe that would have been a better review, but I guess you live and learn. But yeah, if there's, yeah, I think that's gonna do it from me, so I will take this opportunity to thank you all for watching, whether it be on Twitch or in the future YouTube video. I worded that weirdly. This has been JamsHams Judgement, my weekly review podcast where I review anything. If you have any suggestions on what I should review, I review anything and everything. Please do put it in my Discord suggestion box or send me a message somewhere. All my social information is there, or can be found in the whatever information section is found under this, whatever platform you're watching on. All of my links will be found there. Feel free to send me a suggestion on what to review. Yeah, this has been It Chapter 2. I've been JamsHams. This has been JamsHams Judgement. And until next week, where I'll be reviewing something, goodbye.